We're going to start. Good morning. Thank you for coming. It's a very special day for the Gerald R. Ford Foundation and for the museum and the library in Ann Arbor. I think we've got some very exciting news for you. But I do want to first of all recognize there are several state senators and representatives from United States. Senator Levin and Stabenow are here. Former Mayor Logie, Mayor George Hartwell, Rosalind Bliss, and a number of luminaries who have gotten up early to attend this very special occasion. That said, I'm David Frey, a trustee of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation and co-chair of the campaign for the legacy of the late President Ford. I'm joined this morning by President Ford's son, Steve, who is chairman of the foundation, and Hank Meyer, vice chair of the foundation. Now, Hank, Steve Ford, Steve Van Andel, and Doug DeVos are co-chairs of the celebration of President Ford's centennial year, which begins in 2013. Very special year for all of us, and particularly for this great city, the hometown for President Betty Ford, the place that they always came back to, and they are here with us today, as you know, at the burial site. At this time, please welcome many of our West Michigan trustees who have joined us this morning. If you would please stand, trustees, we'll all recognize your role and your presence this morning. Thank you so much. We are here today to share some very exciting news about expanding the reach and the conversation about the Ford Presidency, the lives of Gerald and Betty Ford, and the momentous events in the history that our nation experienced between 1974 and 1977, the years of his presidency. As we gather this morning, I want to share a quote from President Ford that captures our vision. He said, "This museum is not a monument to any one man or any one presidency. Rather, it is a classroom of American democracy, a place where school kids as well as scholars will enjoy and access the innermost workings of their government." End quote. It is with this in mind that we are here to share with you the goals of this great campaign, a capital campaign that will result in significant enhancements to the museum in Grand Rapids, in addition to a digital chronicling of works in the exhibits and the archives in Ann Arbor. This combined effort will inspire significantly greater access and interest, as President Ford said, for, quote, school kids as well as scholars, end quote, to experience. Now, before Steve Ford shares a bit about the campaign and the plans, let's take a brief look at a video that will help us understand this very dynamic project.
The reservoir of trust in the country had been drained. The institution of the presidency was tarnished, if not judged marginally illegitimate. Because of his basic human decency, his honesty, he was able to, just by his demeanor, reestablish that trust in our country.
Here's a man who didn't seek the office, was called upon to serve, agreed to serve, was never elected, but was clearly the right man at the right time for the United States of America. He took tough actions, actions that he knew were not going to be politically popular, but were the right thing to do for the country.
He had the values of a Midwesterner, and the Ford family was very well known, very very respected for their honesty, their principles to business. That moral compass was made out of steel. The man never wavered.
My fellow Americans, our long national nightmare is over. We will ensure that all of our young people have a better chance in life than we had. An education they can use and a career they can be proud of. Within these walls, you will find clues to some of the convictions I hold, which explain the policies that I set and the decisions that I made. Built with private funds, not taxpayer dollars, this is not a monument to any one man or to any one presidency. Rather, it is a classroom of American democracy, a place where school kids, as well as scholars, will enjoy privileged access to the innermost workings of their government.
3 decades ago, my father and mother celebrated the opening of this fabulous museum on the banks of the Grand River here in their beloved town of Grand Rapids, Michigan. They saw this as a place where future generations could come and learn about their triumphs and their challenges. My 2 older brothers, Mike and Jack, my sister Susan, Mom and Dad's 7 grandchildren, and I are proud to support and lead the Ford Foundation's campaign to share their legacy of integrity and principled leadership. With the new exhibits, a very engaging new student learning center, and all the latest technology, their unique time in history and the lessons learned will be shared and studied by generations of future leaders.
You don't need to be president to make history. Make your own history by contributing to your own community. Then we will discover the joy of being part of something bigger than ourselves, and the realization that while we make a living by what we get, we make a life by what we give.
Good morning. I'm Steve Ford, Dad's 3rd son, and he's exactly right. We get a life by what we give. And we're proud to be here this morning to give back, try to give back to West Michigan and Grand Rapids. Dad and Mom would be very proud this morning to know that their legacy and the lessons learned from it are going to go forward and particularly help young children around West Michigan, Grand Rapids, and around the country. So before I get started, I want to introduce the one person we couldn't get this done without, who runs our museum and library, and that's Elaine Didier. Elaine, if you would stand up, please. She just so you understand the relationship, the foundation is a private foundation. We raise the funds, and there's no public government tax dollars or anything raised here. We raise the money, and then we turn it over to them after we build the buildings or find the money, and they put together the programs, and they're the archivists that look after all these great artifacts and papers and documents in this great building. So, well, I have to tell you that every time I see the clips of that video, I'm reminded of the perspectives of my father that are so relevant today. His ability to reach across the aisle and work with both sides of the aisle and find compromise, which we need so much today. The quality of the people that he worked with, his commitment to do what was right for the country, and of course the strong woman, my mom, who stood next to his side and found her own place in history in our own way. This campaign for the Legacy of Gerald R. Ford is a $15 million campaign. It's designed, as David shared earlier, to renovate and create greater access to this wonderful archives of material and artifacts and exhibits that are here at the museum and also the Ford Library in Ann Arbor. And most important, the great thing is it's for all ages. It's for adults, kids, scholars, anybody that wants to study this period in history. Let us break it down a little bit to give you an idea of what we have here. This campaign is going to build a 10,500 square foot addition that will become the new Student Learning Center that will be on the south side of the building here. The Student Center will be an interactive classroom environment where students of all ages will be able to learn about citizenship and civics, the core values that Dad and Mom both stood for and lived throughout their lives. The foundation will also look at working with the University of Michigan, Michigan State, Grand Valley State University to help develop what I would call kind of a short course curriculum aiming at empowering these young leaders and students to get interested in history, to get interested in being a good citizen of this country and their government and those principles of leadership. We will, thirdly, renovate the complete existing building that you're in now. And this will include adding interactive displays, building a beautiful new theater in the round where visitors can experience a life in the presidency of Dad and kind of a 3D type situation. We will renovate and allow the museum to become a complete conversation for the visiting public, and it will be designed to engage discussion and explore the relevant time in history of our nation when Dad served. The remaining funds after the new Student Learning Center and the renovation of the existing building will serve as a basis, as David talked about, digitizing all the presidential papers and documents that will support scholars and students of history throughout Michigan, throughout the country, throughout the world, and they will have online access to all that information. Think of the opportunity to reach out, and the museum and library becomes kind of wall-less in this new age of access through the internet. And some of Dad's works, his administration, key moments like the ending of the Vietnam War, the SALT agreements, negotiations with the Russians, the Helsinki Accords, all these specific documents and agreements will be able to be studied all over the world. This $15 million campaign coincides with a really special moment in time. It's an opportunity as we prepare to celebrate Dad's 100th year. And we want to encourage a broader and deeper study of this important time in history when he served and the remarkable devotion that both he and Mom had for their country and the public they served. I'm proud to share with you this morning the Foundation Trustees, and some of them are here with us this morning. The trustees here in Michigan, we have other trustees all over the country. They have agreed to pledge and individually give over $10 million to get this campaign started. So we start from that position right there. We have a great group of trustees, and to have that kind of commitment to be our lead gifts and get the momentum for this campaign going, to give us a starting place to come to the public now is just a wonderful thing. And I thank the trustees. And so many of these people work for Dad in the administration. They were great friends of his growing up here in Grand Rapids, friends of Mom and Dad. And with Mom and Dad gone now, and their support has gotten even stronger. And I am deeply, deeply, deeply grateful for that. I think this announcement reminds us all of the remarkable legacy and the strength of character that both Mom and Dad had, as well as the impact they had and what this offers. I would like to close by thanking each of the trustees sitting here and around the country. Your service has been a true love of my parents. It's one thing for me to stand up here. They're my mom and dad, but for your support, you're not related to them. You just have a great, great love and friendship for them. That means even more to me. So I thank you again. This will be both an inspiring institution of learning and an ongoing asset for this great community of Grand Rapids and West Michigan that my parents both so greatly loved. Well, now I would like to turn it over and introduce it to my Vice-Chairman, Hank Meyer, who will give us a peek at some of the plans for the centennial year.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of not only Steve and David, but Doug DeVos and Steve Van Andel, I'd like to welcome you all for a special opportunity, as Steve said, not only to begin a capital campaign, but by very happy coincidence, to celebrate a president's 100th birthday. It gives us time to reflect not only on the individual and on the family, but on the role in history, the moment in history that this president served our nation in, and the legacy he left us. We're really looking at 2013 as a year-long series of birthday parties. Beginning in January, the museum and library will host lectures and mini events designed to familiarize us with the president's legacy and with that very rich history that Steve just really gave us some strong suggestions of. The war in Vietnam, foreign policy, restoring our civil society that make this such a special place. In May, the museum will open a special exhibition called Jerry at 100 that will remain open to the public through the end of the year. And also in May, we'll host a dinner in honor of the President's centennial in conjunction with the 2013 annual meeting of the Ford Presidential Foundation Board of Trustees. Now, this Board of Trustees, because a lot of the folks that are involved in that are former members of the President's administration, has always been held in Washington, D.C. So while it won't touch everyone in the community as widely, we also think it's an awfully special occasion to bring those Washington trustees to Grand Rapids and host them here. In September of 2013, we hope to connect the centennial to Celebration on the Grand. And Celebration on the Grand grew up in conjunction with the opening of the museum originally, and again welcome the public to experience the museum. As David Frey mentioned, we'll have regular updates about the campaign, a series of centennial events, and by the next year we'll share plans for the groundbreaking of that student learning center that Steve told us about, as well as the museum renovation itself. Throughout the next year, our friends and neighbors will be invited to join the Friends of Ford program and make a special contribution to the campaign as well. And this will give us an opportunity to stay involved with current programming at the museum, and it serves as a valuable resource during the campaign. I can't tell you all how often first Marty Allen and now Joe Calvaruso in their capacity have come to rely on and be energized by the work of the Friends of Ford. Finally, President Ford has given us the great gift of his legacy, and it's up to us to cherish it, and it's really our privilege to celebrate it. This concludes our presentation this morning, and David and Steve and I are happy to answer any questions, and we thank you all again so much for joining us. Thank you.